So welcome everyone to Hide and Seek with Ideate XRay. My name is Richard Taylor with Ideate Software, and also with me is Sash Kazaminajad, who's going to be helping me and monitoring with questions. So again, please feel free to type questions into the question panel and we will answer those as best we can. So real quickly, my background is architecture. I have over 20 years of Revit experience. I was fortunate enough to be one of the original employees at Revit way back in the day. Gosh, it seems so long ago, over 20 years ago. As everyone knows, Revit technology was bought by Autodesk. And so I worked for Autodesk for about 12 years in various roles, and then one of the product managers for Revit. And then I've been working for Ideate Software for a little over 5 years. Please feel free to contact me at richard.taylor@ideatesoftware.com on my email, and you see my other social media handles. Ideate Software is all about simplifying your Revit data challenges. Ideate Software creates 5 add-on solutions for Revit that you see there on the screen. Ideate BIMlink, Ideate Explorer, Ideate Sticky, IdeateApps, and Ideate Style Manager. And today we're going to be focusing on the one solution called IdeateApps. Now, IdeateApps is actually a collection of 9 tools, but before I get to that, I want to talk just a little bit about our Ideate software in general. That all of our solutions are available for Revit 2021. That's the latest release of Revit, as well as Revit 2020, 19, and 18. So we're supporting the last 4 releases of Revit. We have both in-product help as well as online help, and I'm going to be showing you examples of both of that. And then we also provide a lot of content for getting started. So it's not just the software, we're providing samples, as well as video content and learning information and webinars such as this. We do comprehensive testing with customers all around the globe, and especially now with so many of us working remotely, we're really making sure that we're integrated and we're working very well with BIM 360. So with that, let's just jump right into it. And like I said, IdeateApps is a single product, but it is a collection of 9 productivity tools for all Revit users. So it doesn't matter if you're an advanced Revit user or you're new, these tools are going to help you and enhance your workflow. And today we're focusing on actually sort of 1.5, because I'm going to be showing some quick select as well. So we're going to be focusing on Ideate XRay. And XRay helps you understand why something is not visible in a Revit model. So it's very helpful and very easy to use. So hey, what is it? Well, like I said, it's for all Revit users. You can use it anytime. And the reason that we developed this is because it's so difficult to figure out why something is invisible in a particular view. All right, so let's kind of set up the problem first, right? Let's talk about it. So Revit provides just a dizzying array of options to display or hide elements within the building information model, right? And I'm sure you've probably seen this warning pop up where it says, none of your created elements are visible in that view. I'm going to show you that example. I'm sure you've seen it, but just in case you haven't. And so as an example, there are things like category and phase and discipline, and also work set, whether the work set is loaded or whether the work set visibility issues. You can have a work set that says, I want to turn these elements off that are assigned to this work set. All of those can impact whether an element displays within a selected view. And then, of course, there are scope boxes and crop regions and view filters and grid extents. And I mean, the list goes on and on. In fact, we've uncovered over 50 different ways that you can hide an element within a Revit model. So it starts to get pretty complex. So I'm not going to go through all 50 today, but I'm going to show you some examples of some Revit visibility problems, right? And so here are some ones, and I don't know if I'll have time to do everything today, but I'm going to do as much as I can, talking about category visibility, view templates, view range, the view discipline. So like let's say the annotations need to match the view discipline assigned to the view, model crop characteristics, annotation crop, work set, phase, scope box, and so forth. And in fact, as I said, there are over 50 plus conditions that can cause visibility issues. So the first thing I want to talk about is, well, what does Revit provide out of the box, right? So there is a mode, right, called the Reveal Hidden Elements mode. But that mode only works for the category or if the object has been hidden by the element. So for instance, if you right-click on an element or a series of elements and you say hide in view, it will show you that. Or if let's say you have an electrical fixture and you've turned off the electrical category, right? It will show you that. But those are the only two things. It doesn't show you anything else of the other conditions that I mentioned. Now, you can always turn on wireframe style. Maybe an element is obscured from another element, like let's say a wall's in front of it and you can't see it. You might have had like a temporary hide isolate mode on where you can reset that to make sure that you're seeing all the elements. As I said, if it's a category or hidden in view by an element, you can use the Reveal Hidden Element mode. You can change the detail level to fine, which may show some additional elements that you're looking for. But basically, that is what is available in Revit out of the box. Okay, so now let's say you're very familiar with that and you've tried all that and it doesn't work, right? Or you still can't find the element. Well, that's where Ideate XRay can help you figure out those Revit visibility issues. So I think the easiest thing, I've talked long enough. Let's just go ahead and look at this. So I'm going to switch over here to Revit. And today I'm using Revit 2021.1, the latest release that just came out, I think, last week, or the point release. However, I want to be clear that all of everything you see today is available on the last 4 releases of Revit. And in fact, we have versions that are earlier than that too. It's just that our last update, which we did in May, so we kind of aligned with Revit 2021. And we updated basically all of our 5 solutions in May. That latest release is now sort of concurrent with the last 4 releases of Revit. So if you come over here to the Ideate Software tab, you will notice that all of the solutions are here. Our BIM Link Explorer Sticky that I have loaded, but also the IdeateApps solutions, those 9 productivity tools. Okay, so let's say the task at hand is to come down here and select a chair. I'm going to move a chair or place a chair maybe in front of that door. Of course, it's not going to tell me it needs to save. And here is that lovely warning I mentioned. None of the created elements are visible in this view. Okay, well, why? All right. So here's where we can use our trusted Ideate XRay. So the first thing that comes up with Ideate XRay is called the Ideate XRay Selection Wizard. Because you think about if you can't see the element, how do you select it? And so we provided a number of different methods to be able to select the element. And I'm going to go through all those different methods during this presentation, right? So the first thing is, okay, a chair is a 3D element. So I want to search a small area in the target view. So I'm going to say next, select by crossing, and I say, oh, well, somewhere in here, let's say I place that chair. Well, what I can do is look at the category and I can actually sort by clicking on the top level, like whether it's family name, category. So within that box, it's showing me every element that is both visible and non-visible. So it does list everything within that selection criteria. So I see the furniture here and I say next. And so this is also very important, and you're going to see me change this quite a bit. Now, I only have one active view, but when I have multiple active or multiple views, you'll see that this is important to make sure that I'm selecting the right target view. So basically, always here it says, what are you looking for? A chair. Here's the view. And I basically just ask X-ray to find that element. And so it says, hey, well, this is pretty simple. I always like to start very simple. It's hidden by category. All right, so I'm not going to read the text. It's too wordy for me. All right, I'll just say show me. Well, gee, everything's grayed out here. I can't change it. Why not? All right, well, maybe I better read that text. Well, the text says, okay, it's the category, but the category is being driven by a view template called Ideate Plan, and that controls the visibility. So you can't just, turn on that element or turn on that category. So I say, oh, okay. So now I can go to the floor plan. There's the view template, Ideate Plan. I'm going to say, oh, it's the architectural plan instead. Let's say, okay. And now, once I've applied that particular view template, you'll notice that the furniture does display. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. In fact, there's that lovely little chair I put right in front of the door. Maybe I didn't want to do that, so we'll just get rid of that. So again, very simple. I like to start out with that one, but it's a good sort of example. Now, let's do some other examples here. In this particular one, let's open up a different view here. And here's where I can just say, well, you know what? I don't have to close the application. I could just say try again. But this time I'm going to try something different, right? So what I'm going to do is, again, go back to the selection wizard. I'm going to search for a small area. In this case, I'm looking for a wall. It's not visible. So that is a 3D model element. And so I'm going to select by crossing, and I'm going to say somewhere in here. And you'll notice that walls come up here. Here's my interior wall, and I'll say next. And then this is what I was saying. It's important to make sure that you're looking at the target view. Now, if you start Ideate XRay, like if I closed it and restarted it, it's always going to, by default, give you the target view that you started it in. But in this case, since I started it in this view called Check 01, I'm going to now say that, well, I want you to look in Check 02. Okay? So then say find the element. So it's going to, again, go through all its little checks here. And it says, oh, it's a view range. So you say to yourself, oh, interesting. Okay, well, I don't know much about that. More info. So we provide detailed help, actually much more detailed than Revit, on what does it mean to be outside the view range. Or, there's the primary range, there's the view range, there's the view depth. And it's different whether you're working with a floor plan or a ceiling plan or a structural plan. So again, it's giving you lots of additional information. Well, based on all that reading, and I can now come over here to the the view itself, and I can go to the view range, right? And open up that and say, oh, well, here's the offset. There was an offset that was set at 2'9". That's why that little small wall is not displaying. As soon as I do that, now the wall displays. And you'll notice that I'm working interactively with Revit. This dialog, if you're familiar with some of our other solutions like Ideate Explorer, we call it non-modal, just meaning that you can have it open and you can even have it on a second screen, and you can work while the the application is open. All right, let's do one more, and then I'll stop for some questions. So let's go over to this one. All right, we see here it says I should have a section marker, and it's called section 19, and that's not visible here. Okay, so let's go back to my try again. And what I'm going to do is this time I love the selection wizard. I am looking for a grid, level, or view reference in this case, because a section marker is a view reference. So I'm going to pick from a list, and it's going to give me all the list of all these markers that are in this view, or actually the project. But I want to narrow that down. So I want to use my search criteria, and I want to say section 19. So there we go, section 19. I'm going to click on that. Say next, and again, I want to make sure that I'm on check 03. So I basically say what I'm looking for, and here's the target view. Find the element. So it's going to go through its checks, and it says, oh, there's a view discipline. And it will, again, it's giving you very detailed information. It's saying that the section marker is set to electrical, but the view is set to architectural. And that's why they're not displaying. So you have the option to either, that's why there's not an easy fix, because I could change the marker or I could change the actual view, right? So it kind of, if I want to go more info, you'll see each time there's lots of information here within the product on help. But now that kind of makes sense to me. I can just click over here on the view and I say, let's come up over here. Instead of architectural, it now should be electrical. And I'm going to go ahead and apply. And as soon as I now have the two disciplines that are matching, then the marker reveals itself. Okay, so I want to, since I've shown you a couple examples, I just want to stop here and say, Sash, are there any questions, burning questions that I need to answer?
Hey, Richard. No, at this time there are no questions. So that tells me everything is crystal clear.
So we did that discipline mismatch. Let's do this one here. This is a nice one because this is going to show another method, right? So I'm going to say try again. And what we're going to do is go to that selection wizard. This time, I know that the wall and some of the area I'm working on is part of the garage. And so I'm not exactly sure what it's called or whatever, but what I want to do is use quick select. So I'm going to say, let me pick. I'm going to say next. And it's kind of waiting here for me to import information from quick select. So quick select is part of IdeateApps. So both of these can work together. So with IdeateApps, you get both solutions here. And so here for the entire project, it's showing me every single element, right? I've got 38,966 elements, and it's showing you every instance of every element. So I want to search for those areas that are part of the garage and say search. So there are doors and rooms and maybe viewports and views, but there is a wall here, right, that's assigned to this garage. So I'm going to select on that wall. Then I can just say import the current selection. And right over here now it imports from quick select. So I can keep quick select open or I can close it. But now I've used that and I'm going to say next. And I'm going to say, okay, well, why doesn't that show up in that check 04? Well, again, now it says, hey, it's a crop region. Okay, well, what does that mean? So every view has a model crop and an annotation crop around it. So this is telling me that it's outside of that region. Now notice that there's a fix that button is available. When it's a binary option, so it's a yes, no, like I can turn the category on or I can turn the crop on or off, it allows me to do that. When it's a little bit more detailed, like you saw, I had to interact with the view range or I had to interact with some other criteria, like as I was saying with the the elements. Well, do I want to change the element, the annotation marker to electrical, or do I want to change the view to electrical? Right? There's a decision there, and so we don't know that, so we gray that fix out. But here, it's just a binary on or off. So when I select fix, it's going to now turn the model crop off, right? And so now it's just updating here. And then it's going to show me all the information from the garage. And there's that garage wall. You see it's still highlighted there. And now I'm able to understand why that didn't display. Okay, very similar. Everyone should know that there's a model crop, but then around the model crop is an annotation crop, right? So here's an example of, I'm going to try again. And I'm going to use that selection wizard. And this, I think, is, again, great because now we're not searching for a 3D element. We're searching for a 2D element, right? So this is like we're looking for that dimension. So I'm going to tell it, so it's going to limit the feedback that it tells me. So now I'm going to select by crossing, and it's just going to give me annotative elements. Again, if I come up here to the category, I can select dimension, say next, and then make sure that it's in the right view that I'm looking for and say find the element. And lo and behold, it's an annotation crop, just as I suspected. So therefore, if I select fix, it is going to turn off the annotation crop in this view. Okay, so here's a great example, is that in this particular case, we've got some plumbing fixtures in this detail view, right? And they're not visible. Okay, so let's go through this again. Let's say try again. And we're going to say, we're going to do our selection wizard. And I'm going to select 3D element because a toilet fixture is a 3D element. I'm going to select by crossing, and we're going to somewhere in here. And this is where there's a lot of things here. So I might want to sort by category. Makes it a little bit easier to see. And there's the plumbing toilet, right? And I've got a couple of those. Oh, I actually want, let's say the deluxe one here. And now I want to make sure that that is the right view and find the element. And so it's going to go through and, whoa, what happened here? Well, what happened is it wasn't just one thing that hid that element. There are actually three things. So Ideate XRay will give you, if things are layered on top of one another, it will give you all those solutions. So right now, that toilet is hidden by element. Someone did a right click and said hide in view. So again, fixing that will just basically say, make that visible. Hidden by category. Someone turned off the plumbing fixture category. Well, here's where it's not being driven by the view template. So I'm going to go to show me. Show me is great because it brings up the appropriate dialog. I'm going to go to plumbing fixtures, right? Plumbing, and I'm going to select on that. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And then finally, the work set is not open. So I'm going to hit show me. And you'll notice that it brings up the appropriate work set dialog. And I'm going to say, oh, you know what? Now I see that it's closed. Open that up. OK. And sure enough, it displays. Now, I wanted to kind of also show you that there's, it's still showing these three elements. If I say try again, right, and I pick the same plumbing fixture, check 05, and I say find the element. Well, you can see that it's actually visible here, right? It selected it. So it kind of tells you that, well, it may be obscured because it seems like it's visible, but it will also give you more information, like if there's a family element visibility or some issue. So it's kind of giving you some forensic things to try if it's if it seems like it's visible, even though you know it's not. But in this case, it actually is visible. We can see it right here. We can see it selected. So we were able to fix all of those three issues that were causing that not to display. Okay, here's another really nice one I like. It's kind of because it's not so obvious. I'm going to bring up on another view here. And let's go ahead and fit that view. And I'm going to zoom in and I see that, okay, grid 5 is missing. Okay, so here's where I could do a couple different things. I can say try again. And I'm going to say the selection wizard. And I'm going to pick from a grid level or view reference. So I'm going to, again, pick from a list and say next. Let's see, grid, because there are a number of them. And you'll see there's all the different ones. And let's see, oh, there it is, grid 5. So let's select on that, say next. And you know what, before I do that, or actually even that's fine. I can go ahead and do this and say find the element. It's going to tell me that, what happens is that particular grid doesn't intersect with the plan, or basically in this case, it's like level 1, right? So it's not intersecting with the plan, the extents of the grid, therefore it's not visible. Well, how do I fix that? Basically, I need to show it and basically in another view. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select quick select, and this is what I was going to do earlier. I kind of did the opposite here, but anyway, that's fine. You see that I've got grid 5 should be selected here because I had it selected over here in Ideate XRay. And I'm going to double click. And double click will open up a view. Well, it knows that it's not displayed in this view or any other view, so it's going to open up the best view available. And in this case, it opens up an elevation view. And so there I can see the grid extents here. And I can see that, oh, okay, what I need to do is grab that and make sure that those extents come down here. And let's make sure that actually does intersect. So I'm bringing that down so it intersects the plan. So now when I go back to my grid level extents, sure enough, grid 5 displays because it's now intersecting that plan. So again, that's fairly difficult or maybe not as easy to figure out when these sort of grids and level lines don't intersect. So let's do another example here. Let's go to my view filter, because I think that's a pretty common one as well. And let's go ahead and fit this view. And let's say I'm looking for a wall, an interior wall that's not displaying. My exterior walls are displaying, but my interior ones are not. So let's say try again here. And we're going to do here my selection wizard. And I'm just going to say that I want, again, it to be a 3D element. And by the way, it's not really necessary, but you might have noticed sometimes I select the view just because I'm clearing the selection. So when you select the view like this, basically my selection filter, as you see down here, is 0. So nothing is selected. And I just find that sometimes it's better if you're doing multiple things in a row like this. It's sort of better to clear out the selection. All right, so let's say next, select by crossing and say somewhere in here. And again, this is a good one where you want to search for a category. You want to come down to, now notice here, there's a storefront and there's an interior, but the ones that aren't displaying are the interior wall. So I'm going to select on that, say next, make sure that the view is correct, and say find the element. And again, it goes through its lovely checks here and view filters. This is another nice one where you can say show me. It brings up the view visibility. You can go over here to filters and you can see that, oh, I enabled that filter, or I can turn the visibility on. Let's just disable it for the time being. When I apply it, that filter was causing that interior wall not to display. All right, I'm getting to the end of my presentation here, so I want to just stop here, Sash, and see if there are any additional questions that I can answer before I switch back to the presentation.
Hey, Richard. Yeah, actually, I think a really great one to start with, it just came in, is, does X-ray work on a linked model?
That is a great question.
It is.
And basically, if the entire linked model, like let's say the link you brought in was hidden by a work set, or some other condition, it would tell you that. But we're not able to drill into the individual element. Like, in fact, in this particular case, this isn't linked. But let's just say, if this was a linked model, right? You'd tab into it, you'd tab, and you'd hit the toilet, and then you'd say, okay, why isn't this displaying, or maybe in this view or some other view? So we're not able to tab into a linked and see individual elements of the linked model and why they're hidden, but we can see the overall. Like if someone hid the linked model based on a work set condition or some other sort of global condition for the entire linked model. But that is something that we've been asked about. We actually tried to implement that. And there are some Revit API limitations right now that prevent us from doing some of that work. So it's a wonderful question, and I wish I had a better answer, but I'm going to actually defer it back to Autodesk and say that there are some things that I think Autodesk needs to improve or enhance before we can have access to that functionality. So sorry.
Yeah, I think that brings up a good point too, Richard. It's, for us, when we do our software development, we don't want to, do anything, halfway there if the rest of the features aren't available yet. We'd rather, do it right the first time. So when the ability is there to be able to take that on fully, then it's something we would, potentially consider. So, and as you alluded to, with some of the API limitations, it makes it tough to do a really good job of getting access to all of the linked model information. So,
yeah, and I also see a couple questions there. X-ray is part of the IdeateApps solutions, and it's not sold separately. It's sold as part of IdeateApps. So the great thing is not only do you get IdeateApps, but you get, Ideate XRay, you get, the quick select, you get the renumber, smart delete, spell check, and our sheet and view tools. So you can purchase IdeateApps separately as a product, but not Ideate XRay individually.
And then there was another good question. Maybe I'll just do a clarification. So one of the audience members had noticed that there was a workflow you had done between, quick select and X-ray, and also had some, questions about the differences between, Explorer and quick select and how those work. And the way I had, answered this is, quick select is really a program for quick selection of elements, where Ideate Explorer, goes a lot further with, auditing capabilities, and of course, the ability to manage warnings. And as Richard is bringing up here, there's kind of differences between the products.
Google is your friend. I Google all the time. So like our help system, we've done a really good job of making sure that, if there's so much help. There's so many links that it's hard to remember everything. So what I do is I'll just Google, and you saw me Google it. I just said quick select versus Explorer, and it came up. And we have this lovely little chart that shows the differences and the additional features of Ideate Explorer, what you're getting.
Yep.
Ideate Query, the built-in filters, custom filters, Revit warnings are all big enhancements to Explore.
Yep. And I think the one thing that's important to point out is, while Richard did use quick select to select some elements and then, pass them through X-ray, you can do the same thing with Explorer. If you're in Explorer doing some more intense selection or filtering using query, then you can pass that through X-ray as well, because you basically at that point have selected an element or more than one element.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we're just a couple hair over the top of the hour. So I wanted to just mention that, as I did at the beginning of the presentation, you can download a trial. You can go to ideatesoftware.com /download, or actually click on the free trial. And it's a full function 14-day trial of all of the Ideate apps, including Ideate XRay. So with that, I would like to thank my colleague, Sash Kazimierajad, for answering those questions. And again, you can always feel free to contact me with any additional questions. And I hope that you go to ideatesoftware.com and check out the great features and functionality that we have with our solutions.